So what do I mean when I'm talking about the cabal? One of the names that many people are familiar with would be the Bilderbergers, the Trilateral Commission, the Council on Foreign Relations, the New World Order, the Illuminati. What are we really talking about here? Ultimately, we are talking about organized crime. We are talking about crime syndicates that work on a quasi-governmental level because they do not take any of their high-ranking people and actually run them for office. The people who run for office are never more than middle level within these corporations. We have multiple insiders, whistleblowers, some of whom I've spoken to directly, who have witnessed American presidents acting like simpering little wimps in front of these higher-ranking cabal members because they are terrified of them. This cabal has at its core, believe it or not, a luçiferian belief system. One of the things that I learned from whistleblowers from the cabal itself is that they have to work within something they call the rules. And this is very, very important. So I really want to make sure that this gets into the film. The rules are a body of spiritual principles that they must follow in order to be allowed to exist. Now, what do I mean by allowed to exist? I mean that they are aware that there are benevolent forces that will prevent them from achieving their goals unless we give them permission to enslave us. Now think about that. Well, I didn't give them permission. Why, for example, was there a document on display in the British Museum Library of London in the late 1800s that comprehensively lays out a plan for 3 world wars, during which time they will consolidate a Luciferian New World Order? And those 3 world wars are precise descriptions of World War I, World War II, and a third war in which they believed that most of the major countries have been eliminated and consolidated, and the only group left is going to be rogue mercenaries, which we would now call terrorists. They didn't use that word, but it totally describes Gulf War I, Gulf War II, the war on terrorism. That's World War III, because the rules state that they have to tell us what they're doing. Therefore, if we allow it to happen, we have consented to tyranny, we have consented to enslavement. Now, if you get into the secret history of the cabal, this was rediscovered by Queen Elizabeth, the original Elizabeth that we've heard about from the 1500s. Queen Elizabeth's royal astrologer, a man named John Dee, who is the prototype of the wizard with the long beard, the hat, and what he did was to rediscover, through these ancient documents that were in the Vatican, the technology of how to access what they considered to be spiritual beings that were useful to them, but what we would consider to be demonic or evil beings. These beings need to be accessed through a very complex set of rituals and ceremonies. You cannot just ask for them to show up. You have to follow very elaborate and specific protocols. If you follow those protocols, it's like having an IP address, which is what we use to go online in order to notate a website. Every website has its own IP address. These spiritual beings, such as Baal and Moloch, which they still do ceremonies for today, such as in Bohemian Grove, there is a giant effigy, stone effigy of an owl. That's the god Moloch. The god Moloch goes all the way back to Rome and Carthage, in which they were offering child sacrifices to this god in exchange for power. So John Dee rediscovered the technology of how to draw the magic circles, how to say the right incantations, how to actually do black magic on a governmental level. This is what people are going to have so much trouble with once disclosure happens, is that these people actually practice black magic, and they are very, very good at it. So there is a situation going on right now in which we can actually see an example of a corporate mega entity that is essentially buying its time, but is almost out of time right now. And when the time runs out, what we're going to find out is that not only have we been lied to about the scope of financial tyranny in our world, we have been lied to about extraterrestrials, because that technology that has already been taken in by our government includes free energy. It includes solutions to every problem that we have here on Earth. We can desalinate ocean water with very low energy yield. We can then pump that water into the deserts and literally irrigate all of the dead areas of our planet. We can completely clean up the Pacific garbage gyres, these gigantic areas of plastic that are just circling around and getting eaten by seagulls and whales and all types of marine life. We can eliminate any need for fossil fuel. We eliminate greenhouse gas emissions. There are technologies already in possession of these secret space program groups that eliminate any need for pharmaceuticals. You have pain relief technology in which you interrupt the potassium-sodium balance in the nerves. You don't need any analgesic drugs. You don't need to take any drugs at all. The only thing you would really still need to have the medical community for would be surgery. But all other types of medical illnesses can be treated by advanced technology that is already in possession of these people. That leads to longevity. That leads to life extension. The only reason why we don't have it is that our planet, unfortunately, is being run by a sociopathic cabal of people who actually believe that humans are bad for the environment and they need to dramatically reduce population first before they release these technologies. Their goal was to bring us down to our knees so that we were so desperate for help that by the time they give it to us, they can instill total control and have absolute dominion over everyone. That's not going to be allowed to happen. There is an alliance here on Earth of very powerful entities. This actually includes a majority of the U.S. defense establishment. So once we get some further steps forward in the disclosure process, once the efforts of this alliance, this international alliance, get to the next level, there will be data dumps, there will be volumes of information released that will shake our beliefs to their core. They will challenge everyone. Now when we find out the scope of the betrayal, we find out that these people have not only been lying to us, but they've actually been deploying a weapons system into our food supply. They've deliberately added things to processed food that decreases lifespan, increases lethargy, fatigue, laziness, decreases your IQ, decreases your motivation. That's why it's very important to eat organic food, to try to eat as natural of a diet as possible, stay away from the processed stuff. This is a war. These people are trying to kill us. And if you can understand that, then recognize that once the truth comes out, it will be in the context, very likely, of these people having been arrested on a massive level. There's all kinds of logistics about how that's going to be done, when that's going to be done. It is a massive operation, and I am not authorized to give all the details away. In fact, I did leak details about mass arrests before, and unfortunately I compromised at least 2 different operations because I leaked too much that was classified. I got people killed. So I'm not going to say all of the details now, but we do expect, there are certain things I can say. We do expect there's going to be a blackout. We do expect that all the power is going to go off for a while. During the time that the power goes out, there very likely will be military operations taking place in all of the major American cities. Those operations will most likely be occurring in places where this financial cabal is concentrated the most, and you can kind of interpolate from that what I'm saying. It is very likely that the lights will not be turned back on until the operation has been completed. So everyone is being advised to have approximately 2 weeks of storable food and water on hand because there may be a temporary disruption of goods and services. This is a situation in which it is akin to a coup, but it is a positive counter-coup against a group that has secured political control of our planet in an astonishing fashion and has been far more successful with it than most people realize. This thing is pervasive through media, government, finance, military, politics, pharmaceuticals, agriculture, food. It's a very complex problem, and a lot of people immediately want to look away when they encounter this information. They say, this is overwhelming. In fact, and she's given me permission to say this now, my own mother, when I would talk to her about this, she said, David, I don't want to live in a world where this is true. And I said, Mom, you can't change the fact that these people exist. The evidence is right in front of your face. Now, some people do not want to look at it, and I respect that, but I honestly can tell you that if you are not willing to look at this stuff, you are part of the problem. Because you are burying your head in the sand, you don't have the courage to face the adversary. I studied martial arts for 5 years. I studied a very advanced form of martial arts. And what I learned in that teaching is you do not back down. You face the enemy head on. That's why I'm on this camera. I'm talking to you about this stuff right now. I am prepared to go out there in public and put my name behind